Happy Friday, guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Dubs. I'm your host, Bill T. Well, it's Friday, and if you're getting ready for the weekend to go to Kelly Park, I may see you there. So this weekend, I'm headed out to Kelly Park, promote the show for one crazy weekend, be handing out some flyers. You see me out there, say what's up. We're going to be going out to Red Barn on Saturday, so going to check that out. And if we get in town in time, we're going to go check out the Mark Mills collection. So looking forward to being out there this weekend, seeing some people and seeing some of my friends and whatnot. So if you're out and about, say what's up. If you're in the area, stop by and go to Kelly Park, go to Red Barn Swap Meet, go check out all the cool stuff. So that's what's happening this weekend. Upcoming, we still have one crazy weekend, October 3rd through the 5th, here in Las Vegas, the Orleans Hotel and Casino. It's going to be one crazy weekend. There's stuff shaping up all the time that's going to be unfolding during the weekend. That's going to be a good time, make it more memorable. Lots of people coming from out of the country that are coming to check out the event. So make sure you book your rooms today. Go to letstalkdubs.com and click on the link right on the main page with the flyer for one crazy weekend. I'll take you to the page. You can pay your pre-registration and you can book your rooms right there on the spot. So no need to worry about that when you're booking this far out in advance. The closer we get, I can't guarantee you guys will have room. So you want to make sure at least at the minimum, a bare minimum, 2 months out booking your room. So going to be a lot of good stuff going on over there. Speaking of shows, Jeff Pierce hit me up, Port City Volkswagen show coming up this year. It's going to be Friday, May 31st, 2024. So check that out. That's going to be taking place in Rogers Point Park, Catoosa, Oklahoma. So you guys make sure if you're out there in the Midwest, my Midwest listeners, make sure you guys get out to the Port City Volkswagen Show 2024. So that's going to be Friday, May 31st, 2024. Make sure you guys go check it out. Say what's up when you see Jeff over there. Appreciate all you guys for listening, and make sure you support your local VW shows. And don't forget to support those sponsors that support Let's Talk Dubs podcast, Ross Wolf, and also VW Trends Magazine. Go get some accessories for your car built for enthusiasts by enthusiasts at rosswolf.com. That's Wolf with a U. Also, subscribe today. The latest issue just came out with your boy in the garage section, so you get to peek into my garage, see what's going on. So subscribe today at vwtrendsmagazine.com. So this week's podcast, if you've ever noticed on some of these buses, obviously if you get a bus, eventually you start camping. When you start camping, you want comfort. And when you want comfort and flexibility and still be able to use your bus, usually get a rock and roll bed. Well, on today's podcast, Rusty Lee Pickering, he's the founder of Rusty Lee's Rock and Roll Beds, something that started as an after-work hobby to fuel money for his VW passion, ended up turning into a full-blown career where he's got a huge workshop now that's set up for 3 guys. He's got 8 guys working there right now, and they are just knocking out beds like crazy. It's a great story where you get to hear about a guy who had a passion that risked it all, had a supportive wife at home, put it all on the line, and decided to start his own business. And it's been success from there, and the dedication and commitment that he goes through to make sure he's building the best product he can, even to the point where he spent thousands of dollars getting his seat TUV certified. And you talk about the detail that they go through with that. So that was pretty impressive, but that's why the seat is sold all throughout Europe and available here in the US. So a great podcast, and he's just one of the guys, still a hardcore VW enthusiast. And I think he'll be that way, like all of us, to the day we die. So great podcast this week. So check it out with Rusty Lee's Rock and Roll Beds on Let's Talk Dubs.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen. It's got everything that people who like the bug like.
Okay, everybody. So on today's podcast, you know that I scour the world trying to bring you guys the best information about the people that matter in this hobby. And a lot of those people that matter are enthusiasts like us that end up going into business. And if you've ever seen those modern style rock and roll beds that go in the back that are similar to what they had in the old Westies and campers back in the day, on today's podcast, I have the kingpin who's making all the rock and roll beds out of the UK, Rusty Lee. He owns a company called Rusty Lee's Rock and Roll Beds, and he's made thousands of these beds just for the old school bay windows and split buses. But he's been in the game for 20 years. So on today's podcast, I want to welcome Rusty Lee from Rusty's Rock and Roll Beds. Rusty, welcome to the podcast.
How are we all doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's great to have you on. I know we've been touching base here and there for a little while, and I just wanted to make sure that we get you on the podcast and get into this. You make the rock and roll beds. It's been a successful business for you, and we're going to get to that point. But the way we always start the podcast, as you know, is what's your VW story and how did you get into Volkswagens?
Wow. It's a long story, but we'll shorten it down. So I bought Volkswagen magazine, when I was like 14. I was like, wow, looking at all the Beatles. And it started off with Beatles for me. I just loved them. I used to get it all the time, every month. And when I was 15, almost 16, my dad bought me a 1972 pink Volkswagen Beetle. And that was my first car. I passed my driving test and I drove that around and I used to get ripped. They used to call it Barbie Girl.
A pink one, huh?
Oh, mate, I loved it. Everyone used to call me Barbie. And it was just the best car.
And what year is this?
96. 1996.
Oh wow! So that's kind of it's kind of the tail end of when the crazy color stuff is going out and the Resto custom vibe is kind of coming in. So,
hey, listen, man, this paint job was absolutely awful, but I loved it. Like, I used to drive it up and down my mum's drive, which was probably about 150 meters long. I scraped the wings on it and everything, but I just loved that car.
Yeah.
Oh God, I loved it.
And so so what's the first show you end up going to? Like, so now you get a Volkswagen, you go to Volksworld, right? And then it goes, the process begins. Like, you get the magazine, you buy the car. No, it was probably quite some time before I ended up going to Volksworld. The first show I probably went to was a show in Malvern Hills, which is not far from where I live, and it's called BVF, British Volkswagen Festival. And that used to be in like the June or the July. And then in the September, they'd have Van Fest, which is now known as Bus Fest. And I was just absolutely blown away. Just all these air-cooled Volkswagens driving around. They just ticked every box for me. The sound of them, just fantastic, mate. That was probably the first show I went to. And then, I don't know, I sold that car to a friend of mine, and him and his dad were going to do it up because they didn't like it pink. And then I probably didn't have a Volkswagen then for a few years. I bought my first house, and then I bought a 1969 Beetle. And over here, we have these things called car boot sales. Have you ever heard of a car boot sale? No, a car boot sale, like where they part out a car?
Car boot. So it's like, you have like thrift shops over there.
Yeah.
So over here, everyone gets their junk and puts it in a car, goes to like a field where it's an organized meet, and it's called a car boot sale. So they can be selling anything, kids' toys, clothes,
like
old garden furniture, just stuff like that. Yeah, kind of, but just junk.
Yeah.
And I went to a car boot store and I parked this car, this 1969 green Beetle I had, in this car park. And then someone left a note on the windscreen saying, is this still owned by Lawrence? And it'd be really nice to catch up with you. And then it turned out this car was owned by a guy called Lawrence Meredith. And he's wrote books on Volkswagens. And I've got the book here somewhere. And that car is in the book. And I was like, no way. And then that car, I took it off the road, did a bit of work on it, and then it ended up being off the road for ages. And then I bought a 63 Beetle, and I ended up doing a full resto on that. And that was killer, that car. And in the end, that 69 just sat for so many years. Irv bought it off me for a project for his son, one of his sons, for his first car. And I think it's still in Irv's yard somewhere in bits, man. Do you know what I mean?
Really? Yeah.
But the 72 Pink Beetle I went off tangent there a bit. I sold it to a friend of mine, and him and his dad was ex RAF mechanic, and they like stripped this thing. They've done loads of welding on it, and then they rebuilt the motor, and then the friend died, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah, he died. And probably about 3 or 4 years ago, his dad made contact with me and said, did I want to buy it back? And I thought, it's a lot of sentimental value. But I went to look at it, and it just wasn't the same car. It was just in a hell of a state. And for today's standards of resto, it just wouldn't have been viable doing it, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
So
totally
I
get
left
it.
I left that one. But yeah, so yeah, quite a few Beetles. Quite a few.
And then
it moved on.
And then the issue, which is the issue with the green Beetle that you have here? Is it the
Gosh, I put it on. No,
so it looks like he's got the VW
No.
custom handbook.
no, Lawrence Meredith, yeah? Keep going.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
He's got one on original
No,
VW transporter. So he looks like he was
No.
is quite an author for a lot of VW books.
oh, hang on, I think I saw it then. Yeah, scroll up. Can you zoom in a minute?
Yeah. Let's see. Let's go.
I'm not sure which one. I'll find it, and then I'll send you a picture of it later.
Yeah. So now you
It's that one with the white Beetle on the front.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
one with the white Beetle on the front.
So it's the one
It's in there.
that with the convertible white Beetle on it. Yeah.
That's it. And the registration of the car is BAB 199H.
And then
It's in there.
and so they keep on those cars, they keep the registration the whole time on those, huh? Like
Yes,
the plate,
unless
the plate never leaves.
unless you put a private number plate on it. You can
Right.
buy a private number plate, but yeah, people would leave them on there. So yeah, Irv's got that car now.
Now, at this time that you're doing this, you go through a few Beetles and whatnot. And what are you doing?
Mhm.
What are you doing for your trade at this time?
Right, so when I was 14, we have something over here called work experience. So the schools put you out into a work environment. So I did my first one in retail, which was a record shop, which, it wasn't for me. And then they put me on my second one in a welding and fabrication company. And I didn't even know what welding was. And I went there, I just loved it. And then they offered me a Saturday job. So from when I was 14, I used to go in every weekend, school holidays. And then when I left school at 16, I finished my last exam on, like, say, for instance, a Wednesday morning,
Mm-hmm.
and then got on my push bike, rode straight down to the industrial estate and started my apprenticeship that day, same day.
So you
Loved it.
you kind of started welding as a fluke. It wasn't like you were a car
No,
guy wanted to
yeah.
weld. It was like, I need a trade.
No,
Let me do this.
yeah,
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And you
the
found,
school put me in. The school put me in it.
and so you found like a natural inkling, like, I'm really good at this. Like, I know how to do this. It's kind of right in my wheelhouse. It works with my personality. This is what I like doing.
I just enjoyed it. I liked being in the workshop. I liked the blokes that were there. I liked the job, because there's welding and then there's fabricating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this was a fabrication shop, so they did everything: sheet metal, stainless welding, alley welding, MIG welding. You operate press brakes, rollers, and also then they had a big contract on the Welsh Water, it's called, so it supplies all the water around here, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and a big contract a big contract for, it's now owned by Heineken, but it was called Bulmers, and they make cider, Strongbow cider.
Yeah.
So we used to do a lot of maintenance. So we learned everything. We didn't just learn how to weld. We learned sheet metal work. We learned like maintenance skills, like fitting, like we're taking gearboxes out and changing bearings on shafts, and honestly, everything. I loved that job, and I was there for like almost 18 years, I guess.
Oh, wow.
Including the top 14. And that's the only job I ever had until I went on my own.
So the skill set that you get from working in the fabrication shop is just kind of taking a drawing and making it reality. Like if you've got an idea and kind of going through the process of taking flat metal, box steel, hinges, all that kind of stuff. And it kind of naturally eventually worked into kind of what you do. Now, do you ever get a bus, and that's where you get where's the inspiration for the rock and roll bed come from to start doing that?
The inspiration for the rock and roll bed. It's right. Okay. So I'll tell you the story on that. So I bought my first house. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was still working at this fabrication company, obviously. I bought my first house, and then I had that green Beetle, the Lawrence Meredith Beetle. Just after I moved into the house, my dad was like, "Oh, I think you should get a classic car," and I was like, "Okay." So we got this Beetle because I just wanted one again because it had been a few years because I sold the pink Beetle, and then I noticed there was these two guys that had moved in like up the street, and one had a pink bay window, and it had the Flintstones all over it, like Wilma and Fred and Barney and all that.
Really?
I was like, "Oh, that is wild." And then this other guy, he had a green early bay. And it sounds a bit sad, really, but I used to like drive past there hoping to catch them, you know?
Yeah.
So they're Volkswagen guys, yeah? And then the one day, I caught the one coming out, and I'm still friends with him now to this day. He's a great guy, both of them. And I was just like, "Oh, hey," you know, and we just started talking. They're like, "Oh," and then he found out I was a welder, and he said, "Could you do a bit of welding on my van?" So I ended up going and doing a bit of welding on this van, lay on his drive. Oh, it's terrible, man. Yeah. Terrible. And then he come to me the one day and he said, "Oh, I've just bought this, there's this company closing down. I think they're called Beetle Link UK or something like that." And he said, "I just bought this rock and roll bed for my van." I was like, "What's that?" And then he showed me. I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And he said, "Yeah, it's 350 quid. Quid."
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" This was like early 2000s. I was like, "You're joking." He's like, "No." And it's just like box section and some hinges. I was like, "I can make one of those."
Right.
And he said, "No." He said, "Honest?" I said, "Yeah, I'll make one." But if you notice my bed frames, they haven't got 90-degree corners. They're rounded.
Yeah.
They're curved.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is not easy to do if you haven't got the right machinery. And I didn't have the machinery, so I made a tool and I used to bend it all by hand.
Oh, really?
I used to strap this tool, and I used to strap it onto the ramp in my dad's garage because it bolted to the floor, the car ramp, 4-post car ramp. I used to put the box in there and I used to bend it round and form it into that curve.
Yeah.
So before I even made the bed, I had to make the tool. So I made the tool, and then I made this bed for him. He was like, "No way." And he was over the moon. So I said, "Oh, yeah." So I'll just give it him.
Really?
And then the story unfolds of how Rusty Lees develops. Like, if you want me to carry on or you want to ask more questions, I can tell you what happened from there.
Yeah. And so how do you get to the point where like you make the one bed and then you realize, man, if that was 350 quid, man, I can make those things, you know, like why not sell those to fund my hobby? I mean, like, because is that where you take it? Is that the reason you start doing the beds?
Well, no, it wasn't the reason I started doing the beds, really, because what happened then is I just wanted a bus because you have a kid and then like everyone has a Beetle first. They're young, and then they start to get a bit older, and then they want to go camping. They want a bus, and when you go to a show, all your mates are in buses, and you're putting up a tent, and it's raining, and you're just like, "Oh, this is crap." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I just wanted a bus. So in about 2007-ish,
Mhm.
I bought a bus. And buses are expensive to build.
Yeah.
So I just thought, wow, I couldn't, Darren wanted that bed, and then someone else wanted one after him, and then someone else wanted one. So I started making a few beds. Not many, just a few.
Mm-hmm.
And there was other companies that make beds, and there still is other companies that make beds. But because it was my hobby and not my full-time job, I didn't have to charge £350 for a bed.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So back then, there wasn't really Facebook or anything like that. There was forums like VZI, SSVC, Early Bay, and things like that.
Yeah.
So every time there was a show coming up or anything like that, I'd make a couple of beds, and I'd never ever said on the forums that I made them. I just do rock and roll bed for sale, unknown brand or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But my username on the forums was Rusty Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, after you've sold quite a few, everyone would be like, "Oh, I've got a Rusty Lee bed. Go to Rusty Lee." So go to Rusty, and Rusty Lee just stuck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
So that was like.
Go ahead.
I've lost you.
Oh no.
Yeah, I've got you back.
Yeah, we're back now. So
yeah, we're back.
You've produced a bunch of those beds at this point at the swap meet, just kind of getting them out to the guys at the car shows and stuff. Now, when you saw the original design, of the bed, did you re-engineer anything or redesign something? Say, this is flimsy, that's cheap, I'm going to make mine better, I want mine to last. Like, was there any improvements that right out of the gate that you did?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, it was made of very thin gauge box section. I use a thicker gauge box section. I still do to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I probably could make it out of thinner gauge, but I like to make it. Anything I do, I like to do it to the best I can do it. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, back in the day, mate, like other companies probably had theirs powder coated back in the day, and I used to wet paint my stuff, because powder coating was expensive. But my beds were cheap, and people wanted them. People couldn't afford £350, £380, whatever the other competition was, and I was selling them for like 120, 150, so I was like half the price, but I wouldn't say the quality was was lesser than the others. I'd say it was better, but the finish, perhaps because I used to wet paint them. I remember I used to build them out of my garage, and we used to have to wet paint them, and then I'd have to leave them overnight and then go back the next day, turn them and paint the other side, and because I just wanted it to be so right,
Yeah. And now, did you, when you decided, so the original one doesn't have rounded corners.
The original one did have rounded corners,
mm-hmm.
but it had very tight. Mine's got quite a big sweeping radius, which is like my trademark. The tighter the radius, the harder it is to bend when you're doing it by hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, I made my own tool, and the original one that Darren bought. Yeah, so the original one Darren bought, I'm not sure if it was made by that company or if it was made by Danbury used to make them, which is a company over here that used to do camper conversions, a bit like Westphalia, but obviously not as big. So if you look in the corners of other beds that are made when they've got rounded corners, they're kind of crushed, but mine don't crush.
Right.
So we used to do all that by hand. We used to do all that by hand. Yeah, it's just.
So now, how did you? With a mandrel bend, they put something inside the steel to do it. When you were working out of your garage, did you sandpack them, or what did you do?
Oh, I literally made like a disc, and that had a larger disc over the top of it. And when you bent it round, it couldn't open up because it was trapped in there.
Mm-hmm.
I've still got that tool as well because I've got machines to do it now.
Oh, really?
And I've still got that tool because for me, it's like I'm never going to throw that away because that's what started me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so you're building this car. So you're building these seats and you're making some decent size. When you go to a show, you make $500-600 at a show, and so you're turning around, you're like, okay, that's money to build cars, right? That's kind of how you were looking at it in the beginning.
Well, yeah. So I bought a bus. I bought a 66, 13 window deluxe, walk through, single color Lotus white bus.
That's a rare bus.
And it is a rare bus. And what a bus that was. That's on my Instagram when it was restored.
Yeah.
That was a killer bus. And I just, like, if you want to buy Safari windows, they're like 500 quid. If you want to buy pop-outs, they're like 150 quid each, you know. Everything was so expensive. So I never used to go to shows, Volkswagen shows, and sell them on a trade stand. I used to pre-sell them on forums. People would be like, I'll collect it off you at the show. And I'd take, like, I don't know, T4 at the time, yeah? They'd be like rammed to the hilt with beds. I remember quite a few years of going to Volksworld, and that van was loaded with beds.
Really?
And I'd be out in the car park and Spike was like, Rusty, you mug, what are you doing? You spending all weekend out in the car park. He used to really get it on him, because I used to go, I've got to meet another person, because it's just like handing beds over all the time.
Right.
And there's a couple of other little tricks on how to sell beds back in the day as well, through eBay and things like that. It was like, when I think about it now, how we used to do it, it was like, because you could go, like, back in the day, you could go on eBay and someone would have a rock and roll bed for sale, say, yeah? Say they had an old Danbury one or another make or whatever bed, yeah?
Yeah.
You go onto eBay and it could say, this item's had 50 bids, yeah? And you could click on the 50 bids and you could see, it would show you who has bid, yeah?
Yeah.
So I used to do then is go onto my eBay account, I don't know, you know, Bill T's bid on the bed. So I'd click on Bill T, message him, I saw you after a rock and roll bed. I've got one for sale, here's my phone number. And I used to sell, like, one person selling a bed, I'd sell like 20 off the back of it.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty ingenious way to go after customers, right?
Yeah, but all this time, not one point was I saying they're made by me. I just used to say, I've got a rock and roll bed for sale. I never used to say, I didn't want to step on anyone's toes. I didn't want to upset anyone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you were just selling them as like, hey, I've got this extra one that I don't need.
It's just a side hustle to pay for that bus.
Well, and what's interesting is, how does the dynamic of the internet change your business platform? You know, your business model, really.
I wasn't even on Facebook for years, mate. Really? I wasn't on it. And then a friend of mine, Jason Cooper, he runs a company called Rothfink. Have you heard of those?
Yeah, I've heard of Rothfink.
Yeah. He's like, Rusty, I've set you up a Facebook page. And he just used to post stuff on there. I didn't even know what it was called. He set that page up. And people used to ring me then and things like that. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, the internet, like, yes, I've got a website. And it's good. I love my website. I'm not a techno guy,
right?
But most of my stuff is word of mouth and Facebook or Instagram and things like that. And don't forget, like, my business has evolved now from bays and splits and T25 beds to the new stuff. That's, you know, 10 years ago, probably 70% of my work was bay window splitty and things like that. Yeah. Now, it's switched. It's probably only like 10 to 20% of my work now, you know? And it's not, compared to the price of the other beds, because of all the testing we've had done and things like that, and how much they cost to manufacture, the bay and split stuff's pretty cheap, but I still do it because that's my roots. Right. That's where it started, and I'll always do it.
Now so we jumped ahead a little bit, and I want to figure out at what point do you decide, I'm leaving my career in the fabrication shop and I'm going to go make these beds full time? What causes that to happen?
My friends and my wife.
Yeah.
Pushing me. So I met Spike so that bus I was building beds to fund to build it. Yeah.
Right.
And and then there was no Facebook then, or I wasn't on Facebook certainly then. It was the forums, and Spike, or Andy the Paint as he was called on the forums.
That's street name.
He was.
Yeah.
He was on one of the forums and he was doing his samba.
Yeah.
And I was doing my bus at the same time. And he was like, "Oh, I really need a rollover jig to flip my bus on its side so I can finish the welding and get it finished and stuff like that." So, and I built a rollover jig for mine.
Mm-hmm.
If you go on to my business page, I think there's a picture of it in the spit that I built.
Yeah.
And then Spike, I said, no one's helping this guy out, and he's like London way, Essex. And I was like, "Look, I've got one, mate." I said, "You can borrow it if you want." And I didn't know him, never met him before in my life. And then I went to Volkswagen and I took it in the back of my T4 and I lent it him. And that's how I met Spike.
And so just out of nowhere, you're like, "Here's a guy who's trying, man. And I've got this jig built. Why don't I just loan it to this guy?"
Mate, he restored some kind of cars in that when he started his business. And he was like, "Russ, I still got this jig." I was like, "Mate, I don't want it. Just use it." I don't know. We might even still have it. I don't know. But that was the start of a great friendship between me and Spike, Yeah. And he was like, I remember meeting him in the car park, and he was with some other of his mates, and they looked like they work out. And I was thinking, "Geez, these guys look mean."
Yeah.
And he was like, I was passing him this rollover jig. It's in bits, and he was like, "Oh, I can't believe you don't even know me and lending me this." And I was like, "I'm not getting this back. Who is this guy?"
Right. It seems like a setup there. Yeah. It's interesting how just the familiarity.
He was still working somewhere there.
Yeah.
He was still working for JD Classics then.
Yeah. And he was doing the bus at home.
He was doing the bus in his own time, and I was still working at the fabrication shop, and I was doing the beds, and then my bus went into paint, and I rung him up the one day and said they painted the inside of my bus. I don't like the color; it's not right, because it was Lotus White, and it wasn't a Volkswagen garage; it was like a local car shop.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what? He went straight in, mixed some paint, sprayed it on a card, sent it to me with the formula, and I took it to the paint shop and said, "That is the color of my bus. You've got the color wrong." And I had to repaint the whole inside again.
Oh, wow. No.
And then not long after that, really, he did start, well, probably a few years after that, he started Spikes. But me and him both finished our buses at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we took him to Volkswagen Show 2012, I think. His bus was obviously killer. What a bus. But my bus was I didn't enter my bus. James Peen was the editor of Volksworld Camper and Bus then.
Mm-hmm.
And he was following me on Split Screen Van Club, my build thread. You can see it on Split Screen Van Club if you want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "I want you to bring that bus to Volksworld." So I had to finish it for Volksworld. And I took it there. And Spike got a top 20 with his. And Rusty Lee got a top 20 with his.
Nice. And now you got, and on your split bus that you had which Lotus White on White is a really rare color combination. And it's a lot of them I've seen are 67s. They may have come earlier than that, but I don't know if it's what year was your bus a 67?
The 66, I think.
Yeah. But the Lotus White on the Deluxe is a super slick color. And I see that you've got like a full camper. Well, you've got like a full style interior in that picture. Is that you did that interior in there?
I had that done by a guy. That is made of oak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was heavy.
Yeah.
And it's got one of my rock and roll beds in it. I don't know if you can see a picture of the bed. It might be on my Instagram or something. But the rock and roll bed, he wrapped the front of the bed, the metal frame, in oak. Mm-hmm. So it looks, there you go. You can see it. You can just see it.
Yeah.
So the front of the metalwork with oak, so it all looks like wood, but it's actually one of my rock and roll beds in that bus.
Nice. No, that's
God,
cool.
that was a fast bus.
Now, what was the setup on this bus? So what you had, what motor?
Straight axle,
Straight axle lowering kit.
944 brakes, front and back with a Willwood caliper conversion on the front. It had a killer gearbox built by a guy called John Walker over here.
Yeah.
And it had a 2110 in the back.
2110, and it
running
moved pretty good.
Running twin 40 dowels, MSD ignition. Oh, that thing went. That thing if you caught it right, you could spin the wheels in second.
Oh yeah, wow. I mean, with all that, especially with all that oak inside, there's like hauling a ton of lumber inside that thing. So that was, and it was a walkthrough, which a walkthrough, the late model walkthroughs. I have one walkthrough, and I wish all my buses were walkthroughs because they just, I like the space. You feel like you have more in the front. You're not so cooped up in the front. That's
well, that bus, mm-hmm. I bought that bus because I always wanted a splitty. Yeah. Gene Berg locking shifter as well. Sorry. It had everything.
Yeah.
So that bus was at the paint shop so long, it was a bit of an ongoing joke. It was there for almost 2 years. On the first year, I bought him an anniversary card and gave it to the paint guy.
Did you really?
And then we went out. Yeah, I did. Yeah. I got an anniversary card.
Yeah, it's a subtle hint.
And then, yeah, it was. But I kind of forgot about it. And we went, I bought a 71 Westie
mm-hmm.
off a guy in San Diego off the Samba. And I got this bus back. And I was like, oh, this is really cool bus. I love it. And I started using it. And then I think it's 2009. We're going out to the VW Classic. And then I hopped on the Samba. And there was this red Westie pop top, 69 Westie pop top sale on there.
Yeah.
And I messaged this guy. That's it. I messaged this guy. It didn't look like that when I got it.
Right.
Original paint. It's still original paint now. I messaged the guy. His name is Darren Irwin. God's Good on the Samba.
Yeah.
That's his username. I messaged him saying, "Oh, I'm really interested in your van. I'm coming out in a few weeks. Can I have a look at it?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll take it down. I'll hold it for you." So me and some friends, Darren Yip and Darren Bond,
mm-hmm.
went out to the Classic. And then I drove down to this guy's house. And there it was. The paint wasn't shiny. It was real dull. And I was like, wow. And it was like $3,500 or $4,000 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. And it still had the original curtains in it, mate. It's got the original canvas on the pop top still now. Yeah.
Yeah.
The curtains aren't original now. I replaced the curtains because they were like dust. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he had another one sat next to it, Westphalia Helsinki. And he said, you can have that one as well for 3,000. But I just couldn't stretch that far. So I was like, yeah, I'll have it. So I bought that bus, that one there you've got on the screen.
Yeah.
Bought that bus. And we went around the Classic and Octo and just bought loads of stuff and filled it up and shipped it back. And then I was a member in the Early Bay because I used to sell beds on the Early Bay. And then I posted a picture of it up. And then one of the guys that runs the Early Bay had this 69, or it might have been a 68 Westie pop top.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fully deployed. It was slammed. It was on the road. Nice motor. And it had Moon Eye wheels on it. Speedmasters, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, they were quite hard to get. And then he said, can I come and have a look at it? He comes to my house and it was there. And it just come in, it was stock height, needed a bit of welding. And he's like, I'll do a straight swap. I was like, what? I've got something special, yeah. So I was like, nah. So I started the work on it. I turned that bus around quick because I just fell in love with it and wanted it on the road. And those wheels on it are Johnny Abbott's J Cosmics, and I had one of his first 10 sets
Oh, really?
And I was probably the first person to roll those wheels on a bay.
Yeah. And
I'm pretty certain I am first.
Their bay lug pattern on this?
No, they're Porsche because I converted it to Porsche. I've King and Link pin beamed it.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
so it's got a late split front beam on it. Yeah, late split front beam on it, and then it's got a Creative Engineering Porsche pattern rear hubs.
Nice. Yeah, what did you think when you saw that first one slammed? You thought that guy shows up at your place with the lowered bay window. The bays look good.
Yeah, and he wanted to swap. Oh, bays drive insane.
Yeah,
I love that bus. It's full. That bus, we took it to EBI a few times, and you asked Spike. I could just finish his notch, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, Rusty, I want to take this notch to EBI. I was like, right. He's like, I'm not sleeping in no notch, he said. I said, right. And he had an Ariba puck, yeah. So I had to put a tow bar on my bay, and I towed his puck to EBI for him, yeah. And we're over in Europe, and we're going down the motorway, and he starts ringing me. He's like, Rusty, slow the effing hell down. He says,
oh yeah,
the trailer keeps the bouncing all over the road, and the tires are leaving the ground.
That's too funny.
Oh yeah,
and he was pulling. So he was.
But anyway,
you were pulling the puck behind this bay.
Yeah, beyond that, I pulled his puck for him to sleep in, so he could show off his notch. And you ask him,
and you're pulling it so fast, the trailer, you're about to lose the trailer, huh?
Yeah, it's bouncing. It's just bouncing on the road. He's like, slow down. He's like, but anyway, so that guy, Darren Irwin, I bought that bus off. I ended up buying quite a few buses off him and setting people up to have buses off him. And I don't know if you've seen the bus. Herb's got it now. He bought it off me. It's a velvet green and white 13 window deluxe.
Yeah.
Walkthrough. Original paint. Herb's got it on his page for sale.
Oh, really?
I bought that's original paint and another 13 window deluxe walkthrough.
Yeah.
And I bought that off him as well. And I bought a 15 window off him as well.
Oh, off this
I sold the 50.
One guy in the States, huh?
Yeah, because Darren and Irwin, God's good, he was a teacher.
Yeah.
And he used to have people he used to pay people finder's fees. Man, you've never seen so many buses. He had buses everywhere.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, loads. He actually reached out to me a few weeks ago and offered me another bus. But I was like, nah, I can't buy any more buses.
Oh, so he's been your hookup here in the States for a long time, just to pipeline a lot of nice buses to the UK, huh?
Yeah, but he knew. Anyone that knows me knows that my dream bus is a 15 window. Do you want me to turn the light on here or not?
Yeah,
can you see me?
Yeah, you can. It'd be better. Yeah, for the video part.
1 second.
So you're a big fan.
One sec. It's nighttime here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your
15 window is my dream bus. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you got one yet?
A 15.
Well, let's back up for a second.
I had one and I sold it.
Let's back up for a second. So the 13 window deluxe, your pride and joy that you debut over at Volksworld and you do all this stuff. What made you sell that bus?
I got offered big money for it just after I finished it.
Really?
A guy down in Cornwall who restores buses called Matt Smith's VW. He was like, I've got this that is desperate for a bus and he's seen yours and he wants your bus. And at the time I needed the money for my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 2 other buses sat in America with Darren, a 15 window and a 13 window that I had to get shipped. So I let it go. And if I'm honest with you, it was beautiful. It was all restored, but I just love original paint.
Really?
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you like the carefree aspect of owning an original paint card? Like you're not worrying about the paint, or you just like it because it's original?
Spike's going to absolutely crucify me for this, isn't he? I just think, that painted cars, I love them, and all these people that you've had on your show, that restore these Beetles and things like that, they're phenomenal workmanship, but it is never better than when it was first made, because it's only like that once, right, isn't it?
Yeah.
For me.
No, there's something to be said for original paint, originality.
I do like painted cars, but they're just not for me.
Yeah. And so now a couple of questions I want to ask. Like, so you decide, your wife, your friends, they push you to start your own business, right? And then you think, all right, I'm going full time into making the beds. Now I got a wife, kids, a mortgage, all the stuff I got to feed by making these beds. And so now it's not a weekend hobby. I've got to go into kind of a production mode, right?
Mate, I was working 10 hours a day for the fabrication company I work for. And then I was finishing work and then doing 4 hours every night in my workshop at my dad's house, making beds. It just got that busy. Yeah.
And so
it just got that busy.
When you leave, you're just putting in a solid 10 hours a day on your own beds and just producing them. You have that many orders coming in. You've got a website up and all that stuff at this point.
No, I didn't have a website then, really. I had the Facebook page. That I did start a website, but it was crap. The first one we did, really, compared to what we've got now. It wasn't just the bay and split beds that pushed me. It was like a good friend of mine owns a company over here called Skyline Roofs. And they make elevating pop top roofs for the modern build. Mm-hmm. Skyline Roofs. They make the pop tops for T5s and T6s. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't heard of him for a while because he used to restore old Volkswagens. And I hadn't heard of him for a while. So I rang him up. I was like, hey, what's going on? You haven't had any beds for a while? And he's like, oh, come down and see me. I've just started doing these T5s. So I had to develop a bed for a T5.
Yeah.
And he was having loads. He was doing conversions at the time. That's them. That's the roofs. Yeah. Yeah. So they were doing conversions at the time. They weren't doing the roofs then. And he was having like 11 beds at a time every 3 weeks. And I was having to make these in my spare time on top of all the other things. I was finishing work at like 5 o'clock in the evening, going out to my dad's house, hooking a trailer on and a van full of beds and driving an hour and 45 minutes down to drop them off and then driving back. I was getting back at like midnight. And then I was having to go again, build more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So crazy.
Yeah. So like, it was just getting a bit much. And I thought, if you don't have a go, you never know, do you?
Yeah. Better to go out on a limb and try it, because the worst thing that'll happen is you'll go back to the fab shop, right?
Hey, listen, I just thought if I leave my job and I can earn £500 a week and not work as much, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
Right.
Hey?
Yeah.
And now look what we're doing. I've got 8 members of staff. I bought a plot of land. I built a unit. I own the unit. We've got all this kit. We're supplying all over Europe, everywhere.
Now,
loads of traders on board.
So when you start going from just a guy in his garage working, and now now you make it a serious business, you're supporting your family, you're doing all this stuff. Now, how do you start tapping in? Because you're just a fabricator by trade. You didn't go to business school. You didn't do any of this kind of stuff. How do you start figuring out
exactly that?
Well, how do you start figuring out a game plan of like, okay, so I sold 1 bed, 2 bed. Now I'm going to make beds for the T5s, T6s, or whatever. And then, how do I take this to the next level? Because my understanding, talking to Andy, he says that your beds they've been tested. So the testing and all those ratings, you have to supply those things to be done so that you can get a rating to be able to sell it into a car, or what's the story behind that?
Yeah. So when I first went on my own, I was just going to work out of my dad's unit, like it was next to his stables,
Mm-hmm.
just work out of that shed there. And then one of the lads that used to work at the place I used to work at, he'd left and started another job. And then he done like one day and didn't like it, and then rung me up and said, "Have you got any work?" And I said, you probably got like 3 days a week. And then he come to work for me 6 days a week from the get-go. I don't know how it happened. It just, I don't know. Because I knew so many people from the air-cooled Volkswagen scene,
Yeah.
as they got older, they were probably getting T5s and T6s and things like that. And they're like, "I'll just get a bed of Rusty. He's been making them years." And there's lots of people making beds for T5s and 6s now. But if you went on eBay, I don't know, 10 years ago and put in rock and roll bed, there's hardly anything for sale, mate.
Right.
So there was very few people making. So I suppose we just got into it when it was getting into its boom. It was becoming popular, you know?
Yeah.
And there wasn't, I never ring people up and go, "Oh, buy my beds. We should be buying my beds. What about us? They just come to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of happened. I'm not a businessman,
Yeah.
but I've done all right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, you've got a passion for what you do. You want to do it correctly. I mean, you really are committed to building something of quality in the industry. And then for the need to take a hobby and make it a career because you'd rather do what you enjoy doing. I mean, is there a difference now? Do you look forward? Like when you worked at the fab shop, you loved creating and doing that. And now you're kind of a production shop, but you still do development and creating new product.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Yeah. And put great pride in that product. But don't forget, we powder coat everything as well. And we do that. I do that. It's all done in-house.
Oh, so
yeah.
now you
So,
in-house powder coating too.
I have been for a long time. Yeah. Like we probably skipped past that. I probably should have said that earlier. I was wet painting and it got that much. I was doing that many beds, and you couldn't turn these things over on your own. There was an old guy that lived up the road from my dad. I used to ring him at night and say, "Can you come and help me turn these over?" And we'd be turning them over, and then we'd painting the other side, or he helped me carry them in so I could put them down to dry overnight. And I was like, "Oh, this is getting too much." So I found out that there's a powder coating oven and all the plant for sale locally.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to look at it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll have it." And I was absolutely crapping my pants because I paid £7,500 for that. Yeah, and that was a lot of money. A lot. That was big money. You asked Spike, I was like, "Oh my God, have I done the right thing?" But I'd switched to getting someone to powder coat for me. And I was getting all this stuff powder coated. And I think the bloke was getting annoyed with me because my business was growing. I just kept taking more and more and more. And I was like, I need it. Because I just wanted to get it done and not let people down and get it out the door. And then the one Christmas, me and my wife is a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
She was a nurse. She works for our business now. And the one Christmas, she was on shift. So I was there, and this sounds real sad. And I was just like a bit bored, and I had my checkbook out for some reason because we had checks then. And I was like, "Look, all these checks I wrote to my powder coater." So I added them all up, and I was like, I spent £24,000 in 1 year on powder coating.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm going to do that myself. So I went and bought that powder coating plant, and then I do all of it in-house now.
So the whole thing, start to finish, it comes in as raw steel, and it relieves the Rusty's rock and roll beds, finished product, engineered, designed, tested, the whole 9 yards, huh?
Yep. Apart from if anything is laser cut, we get that done by another company because I'm not buying a laser cutter as well because they're a lot of money and I'm at capacity now. Well, you can't do it all, can you?
Yeah, they're only a couple $100,000 for a good laser cutter.
Yeah. That could be my GT3 I want though, couldn't it?
Yeah. No, I think, that's the funny thing that I've often equated, and you've listened to plenty of podcasts that I've equated, like the VW enthusiast that evolves into a business owner is because, and it's the character of the people that are in the Volkswagens, right? Because we always have the Johnny come lately, right? The guy who shows up and buys a Volkswagen because he wants to be cool and hang out with these guys. And then it's gonna make you pay, right? It's gonna break down on you. It's gonna stress you out. And it's one of these things where you've got to put the extra effort into it to be in the hobby, right? Because you can't just be a turnkey VW guy. You've got to be a guy that's in it for a reason, and that requires persistence, right? Persistence and maybe stubbornness, but that same persistence and an eye to like being able to see a positive or a way out of something and be resourceful has attributed to so many people just saying, let me just go for it, start a business and just do what I can and see where it goes. And most people don't get so lucky because, they end up being a one-man operation and then they don't have enough. They can't find good help. They start getting behind. I mean, it's that way in the suspension business, or they get too big of a menu. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I can make this, I can make that. Next thing you know, they're trying to make 60 different things. What do you see has been the biggest benefit to you leaving your job, starting it all? Like when you look back at the last, 10 years solid that you've incorporated or 14 years since you incorporated and just went out on your own. When you look back at that, what's the biggest thing you think you've learned about yourself and business?
What's the big? I don't know. You've got to have a very strong mindset. You've got to believe in yourself, and your friends. And your friends are everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Your support team.
My wife's my biggest support. 100%. She pushed me to go on my own. She was working like agency shifts and saving, and then created a buffer fund for me to go on my own to start my business. And then you've got my friends, like Spike pushed me, Cooper from Rothvink, Irv, and all these people I'm mentioning are VW guys.
Yeah.
And they don't live next door to me. They live all around this country. But those are the guys that I know that I could ring and go, this has happened, I need your help, I need this, I need that. These VW guys, Bondo, Yippee, I've known them for years, and those are the people that help your business grow as well, because they're like, go and see Rusty. All these people make you a success. If you're good at what you do and you believe in yourself, you can do anything.
No, I agree with that. And I think a lot of times, in my world, I left in the contracting business that I'm in. I was working for someone as a supervisor, and I just decided that, the worst, my attitude, someone gave me an opportunity, said, hey, I'll give you the money to start your own business and do the stuff. And I thought, well, I'm stupid if I don't do it now, because I don't have a wife, I don't have kids. And the worst thing that will happen to me is I'm already the best employee where I work now. They'll hire me back for sure when I come back, And so I thought it was worth a shot, and I never looked back, and it's one of those things. Hey, listen,
I left that job where I was, and I would have happily have stayed there. I like that job, and I with my old boss. He gives me loads of advice. I can, he'll ring me, I'll ring him, and and like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 of the lads I got working for me worked for him. One of the blokes that works for me, I was an apprentice, and he works for me now.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to think that they work for me. I think we work together, and I just organise what's happening.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing I've learned is probably it's not easy, and office work is not for me, because my wife often says, because my wife is amazing. My wife's amazing with the customers, because sometimes I'm like, I'm there on the tools all day. Yeah. And then people will ring me, and I might sound a bit short, but I'm just thinking, I've got to get on because I've got to get this and I've got to get that done. I just want to answer their questions and then get on with my work.
Right.
And she says to me, I think the business has got a bit big for you to be out on the shop floor. I think you should delegate more, and I think you should be in the office. And I said, Mim, you may as well close it, because that's not what I'm about. I like being out there.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit in an office answering phones and emails. And since we set up the website where people can order online and then she deals with the customers, best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. Because now you can be out there doing what you love.
Yeah, and she's bubbly and friendly and will talk and people love her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, how lucky are you to be able to have a wife in your world that supports you, that pushes you, you know, and wants to be part of what you're doing? You know, I think that's huge. You know, a lot of people don't have that.
Hey, listen, man, she loved being a nurse and she was a bloody good nurse. But we had twins. Yeah.
Yeah.
And putting them as childcare was just so much money. So she's come to work for the business because we can earn so much more money pushing our business than she can earn being a nurse. And it's all about giving her and them a nice life, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
So she's got the freedom to come and go when she wants, and she can go to the gym if she wants to, but the stuff gets done that I need her to do, you know?
Yeah. No, it's, and that's the thing, you know, owning a business, you know, there's a sense of freedom, but to some degree, I joke a lot, you know, I left to start my own business and now my business owns me. But the reality is, you know, you look at
it consumes you.
Yeah. Because I think it's, you recognize the pattern of how you provide your lifestyle to you, and you have respect for that. And you always want to make sure that you give your best to your business, which is to your livelihood, you know, so
100%. Hey, listen, man, before we had those boys, before we had the twins, I used to work 7 days a week. And she was like, when we have these babies, you're having a Sunday off.
Yeah.
But she doesn't moan at me. I work every Saturday and I'm there for 10 hours easily, you know? But when it's busy, and it's like our job's a bit seasonal, really, because people seem to spend money in the summer but not want to spend it in the winter, when the logical thing is to build your van in the winter to enjoy it in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But also, you know, I couldn't physically do what I do without the team I've got around me as well. You know, you've got to have the right team, and I've got some real good lads, and they've done a lot of hours for me, a lot of unsociable hours. You know, we've worked a lot of weekends, and they just push hard when I need them to push hard, you know?
Yeah. Now,
and you know, they all fit in together. Everyone gets on. There's not someone there that you think, oh God, he's a right knob, I don't want to work with him.
Yeah.
Everyone gets on. It's a good atmosphere. We can have a laugh, and you know, and it's just good, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you can build a good team, that's one of the key components, you know, for having a successful business, is because, and your attitude is right. You know, they don't work for you, they work with you, and you have a team of people you work with. Everybody's got some skin in the game.
I don't want to be a boss. I don't want to tell people off, or, you know, all I want you to do is come to work, do what I need you to do.
Yeah.
And then have a good time when you're at work, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what?
I just thought of my.
Go ahead.
Go on. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to say. I just wanted to talk a bit more about my dream bus, about a 15 window, and tell you a little story about that, and about a rebound bus.
Yeah. So your dream bus is to own a 15 window bus.
Yeah, and a few have passed me by in the past. But then I used to scour the Samba.
Mm-hmm.
And this one night, this bus comes on. It's a 61 or 60, 15 window deluxe, original paint, and it was being sold by a company called J3 Restorations. You know J3 Restorations?
I don't.
Porsche specialists.
Mm-mm.
Right, J3 Restorations, Porsche specialists, right? They're in America, and they sell Mike Wolf's cars. American picker Mike Wolf, yeah?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And this bus was owned by Mike Wolf. Anyway, this car comes on, this 15 window comes on. It's original paint, and it's got a Westphalia camping box interior in it, yeah?
Yeah.
Which is like quite after.
Yeah. It's perfect. It's perfect
Anyway.
for what you're doing.
I was like, I'm having that bus. I want that bus. So I starts ringing this J3 restorations. Can't get through. Then I find out his where he lived, and then I find out his cell number, and I starts ringing him, and he answers the phone. I was like, hey, you've got this 15-minute set. I've got to have it. I want it. It was like $30,000 or something like that. Yeah. I was like, I've got to have it. And he's like, no problem. It's yours. He said, give me a ring tomorrow. Pay me a deposit, and it's all yours. He said, I'll save it for you. I was ringing up Irv. I was like, I've got this 15 window. I can't believe it. I could not believe that I got my dream bus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I rings him back the next day. I was like, hey man, it's Lee. I'm ready to send you that money. And he was like, I'm so sorry. He said, a regular customer of ours, or something along those lines, has just stuck a $5,000 deposit in my account without even saying anything, saying I have the bus. I was like, you are joking. And he's like, he's got to the end of play today to pay, otherwise it's yours. I was like, no. I was absolutely mortified. I was gutted, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I waited 8 hours. I waited 8 hours. I rang him back. I was like, all right, mate. I was thinking, please don't have paid. But who in their right mind sends $5,000 and then doesn't pay?
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So I rang him back. He was like, I'm so sorry. He's paid. And he told me who the guy was. And the guy is called Greg Noble.
Greg Noble.
And Greg Noble. And his username on the Samba is Westphalia Camping Box.
Oh, yeah. I know, Greg. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I was like, and I had his number, and I was like, I'm going to ring him, right?
Yeah.
So I rung him, and I was like, hey man, it's Rusty Lee from the UK, and just started talking to him. He's like, yeah. I said, look, you've bought this 15 window off J3. I said, I really want it. I said, look, I'll give you $5,000 more, and you keep the interior, because I thought he bought it because it had a camping box interior in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I can't believe that you know about I bought it. And he was like, he did not like that I knew that he bought it.
Really?
Because I think he bought it as a secret, and he was going to get it ready to take to like the Octo or something.
Yeah. That's too
But
funny.
it turns out, anyway, and he's probably got about 315 windows anyway.
He does.
But he wouldn't sell it me.
Really?
Yeah, he wouldn't sell it me. And he wouldn't sell it me, and he didn't want me to have it, because it turns out that bus left the factory in Germany, according to what Greg had told me, and went straight to Westphalia. So it didn't have any deluxe seats in it. It went to Westphalia and had the camping box interior put in it at Westphalia.
Oh,
That is super rare.
yeah.
Probably the only one.
Really?
He still got that bus.
Yeah. So no.
You know, ring it up. Tell him I still want it.
I will. I may see him this weekend when I go to. I'm headed up to Kelly Park this weekend, so I may see him. So I'll let him know that. Look, man, I'm here to collect the bus for Lee. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Yeah. So that's wild, man. So are you still on the hunt for a 15 window?
I'm kind of over it now, mate. It hasn't happened, so it's probably better as a dream than to think, oh, I wish I had one. And then when I probably get one, I'll probably be like, do you know what, I'm bored of this now, you know?
Yeah. Well,
I bought a bus just after that. It was my rebound bus. It's called, we call it the Tesla.
The rebound bus?
I called it a rebound bus.
Yeah.
If you look on Irv's page, Irv's bought that bus off me as well.
Yeah.
It's a 67 single color bus, yeah, velvet green, yeah, patinaed to perfection. I bought that out of Salt Lake City, Utah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I bought it off a doctor. I bought it off this doctor, and when I bought it, this is why we call it the Tesla bus. It was electric.
Really?
An electric motor in it. And that thing, you put it on charge for about 20 hours, it did about 17 miles. It was crap. So we ripped that out. And we put it was originally a Roadrunner bus.
A Roadrunner.
And so I think Easy Camper and Roadrunner were brothers, from what I believe.
Yeah.
And they went separate ways, and the conversion was called Roadrunner. You look that up. It's a killer bus. It's so nice. Stock height, drives so well.
Yeah.
Beautiful bus. I put a picture of it on Instagram when we got it. And this guy in Utah, I think his name's IB Brown or something on Instagram.
Yeah, Tony Brown, yeah.
He found it.
Oh, really?
He found it, and he sent me pictures of it. He sent me pictures of it where he pulled it out of a wrecker's yard.
Oh yeah, that may have been part of the. So I did a podcast on the junkyard buses, and interviewed the guy that pulled all the buses out of the junkyard. They pulled like 5 VW buses out of the wrecking yard that one time. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a cool bus. That I had that for some years.
Yeah.
That's gone now. Irv had that.
And that's the one.
I've still got a couple.
That's the one that's
it.
The one that's on Instagram, huh?
That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably that's probably one of the junkyard buses. Yeah. The story, we did a podcast with, I can't remember off the top of my head. I can't remember his name. That he's the guy that found all those. There was 5 or 6 buses in a wrecking yard in Utah that the guy would never sell. And then one day this guy finally just hit it right. And he ended up getting all the guys, called all the boys to come get buses because he got the guy to break loose of the buses and put them up for sale. Yeah. So,
I paid $12,500 for that. I bought it off a doctor.
Yeah, it's wild.
You know what? Right, I bought that bus. I sent the guy the money, and then he went radio silent on me. Right?
Yeah.
Radio silent, and I was on the phone to Irv. I'll never forget it. I was on the phone to Irv. I was like, Irv, this guy's done me for $8,500. It was like, which was $12,500. I was like, he's not answering the phone. I can't get hold of him. And he was like, oh my God. He said, right, we're going out there. We're going out there. He said, right. We were like, right, we're going out there. I've got his address. We're going out there. We're going out there. And literally, I swear on my life, I was on the phone to her, like moaning like hell that I think I've been done for all this money. And then I was like, hang on a minute, I've got a message. And then the guy sent me a picture on the back of a truck getting hauled to the shippers. I was like, calm down, I've got it.
Yeah, let's back it down from kill mode. Irv's ready to go.
Yeah. And Irv done like some blending on it. He's real good at original paint blending, Irv.
Yeah.
He's done my 13 window as well.
Well,
someone else.
So where do you see, one of the questions I wanted to ask you was for you to be able to sell, like have aftermarket accessory places buy your bus kits and things like that for the T5s, T6s. You said that you had to get them tested. You had to get them tested to be able to be sold to a certain degree. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a few different tests you can do, but they're not recognized in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And America's a completely different story. They've got their own different rules.
They don't care.
So, well,
yeah,
they'll just sue you.
Yeah.
So what we did was there's a standard called TUV. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
TUV.
I have.
German standard.
Mm-hmm.
So Skyline. I was saying about my friend Adrian that runs Skyline roofs. He had his roofs tested over there, and he was like, "Right, I've booked your beds in." So we had to go to Germany, mate. We went to Germany. We had to take 3 of each product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we had to get vehicle body shells. Bearing in mind, T5s are expensive vans. So we had to find like written off T5s and strip them.
Yeah.
And we had to take 2 shells and all this product. And we went to Germany for 3 days and tested all this stuff and got on the only UK manufacturer that's got that standard.
Really?
Only.
And that's it's quite expensive, right? To get that standard done, right?
About $60,000.
But getting that standard done allows you to be able to sell your stuff to dealerships and stuff in Germany, or what?
It allows you to sell them in Europe, yeah, because they'll accept German standard, and it's called homologation. They'll allow you to use it as a certified seat for carrying passengers.
Nice.
Have you seen? It's not just beds we make. Have you seen that we make swivel bases so the front seats can swivel around?
Yeah, no,
If you look on the website,
I saw that. Yeah.
So we had those tested as well.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you
there's some videos. There's some videos on my Rusty Lee Instagram page of when we were testing it. These German guys, we put this full width bed in, and it gets a test load of 10.5 ton. Yeah, we bolt the van, and we developed this chassis plate to mount the bed to underneath the van. And they were like, no. They were convinced that this bed wasn't going to pass, right? And they put the load on this bed up to 10.5 ton, and the back of the van goes bang, and it just pulls in, and the bed still opened afterwards, mate.
Really?
Yeah, it destroyed the van, mate.
And
they were clapping us. They were clapping.
And that's the test that they do, is that they put it through. Like if it's in a car accident, they want to make sure that the bed's not going to fly apart and make it worse.
Yeah, and kill someone. Yeah. So they do it in vehicle test, they call. So in vehicle test. So that's when you bolt your product in the vehicle, and then they put chains to it, and then they pull it to it has to get to like a certain loading within point whatever of a second to replicate like a 30-mile-an-hour crash. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So that's one part of it. Then it's put on a sled where they put it on this sled and just shoot it down a track, and it comes to a dead stop. And then they have to do like headrest testing. It's so complex, mate.
Now,
honestly.
Now let me ask this question. When you started doing that testing, did you go back to any of your product and say, we're going to revise this, this, and this and make it stronger, better, or were you making it sufficient from the beginning?
So they were sufficient from the beginning, apart from one, the full width version that has the 10.5 ton test. I had that tested in the UK first in vehicle, and that's 10 grand. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it failed. Right. But it's all part of learning, isn't it? Sure. Failure is part of learning. Yeah.
Sure.
But it's still the exact same bed now that passed the test in Germany. The only thing I did differently was uprate the size of the bolts. It was bolted in the corners of the van too. Mm-hmm. So they were, on the first test, they were M10. And when they put the 10.5 ton on it, the M10 bolt sheared, and then the bed just pulled forward. But then we uprated them to M14, and that's when it crunched the back of the van. So it was just, it was an error. It was an error on my part, really, not foreseeing that I should have put bigger bolts in, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's insane.
That cost us 10 grand for that mistake.
Hey. And then you got to retest after that.
We went back and retested in Germany then. Yeah, that's when we got our TUV. But then, so we done the TUV in like 2019 or something like that, I think. And then COVID hit like 2020, didn't it? Like end of 2020. And that's when Rusty Lee's went up a gear.
Oh, really? What changed during COVID?
It made it. I doubled my workforce.
Really?
Just about doubled my workforce. We could not build the stuff fast enough. When COVID hit, they shut all the airports. Everyone was doing something over here called staycation.
Oh yeah.
So instead of staycation, yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone was just converting vans.
That's
COVID was the busiest I've ever been. If you look on the Rusty Lee page in COVID, for the swivel bases we make,
yeah,
it would take one guy to build 50 a full week, and we just couldn't build enough. So we bought a robot welder. Have you seen that on our page?
I have. I'm on your page now, but yeah. So
we bought a robot welder.
That's nuts. And the robot welder.
Program it. Yeah, the robot just welds them for you. It does them in 2.5 days.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I'm looking at the test sites of the video of the testing of your seats too. That seems to be and they tested off the seat belts, huh? That's wild.
Yeah, it's called a seatbelt anchorage test. So it's because the seatbelt is what's going to take the load if you're in a crash and hold the person in the seat, isn't it?
Right. Now, do you make the flip seat? You make flip seat kits too?
for the front of splits.
Yeah.
No, I was going to, and I've got an original set of flip seat brackets in original paint in my garage.
Mm-hmm.
But we just got that busy with the other stuff. It just went on the back burner.
Now,
And I don't think there's enough market.
That's what I was thinking. Like, is there enough market for a flip seat kit? Because, you know, first to do a flip seat, you got to cut out your bulkhead.
Yeah, but they were put in. Is it SO34s?
Correct. Yeah. And I'm curious, once you cut that bulkhead out, what other support you need to put on the vehicle, if any, you know, because when I look at the flip seat buses, they just seem to have they just rolled the edge over or crimped it, you know?
Mm. Yeah. Well, I was going to do those, mate, but I'd have to I wanted to replicate the originals, but I'd have to get tooling made and have them pressed out because they're two bits pressed and then welded together.
Right.
They're brilliant. I've still got a set here. A guy was hounding me in America for them. Hounding me. He kept ringing me all the time. He saw them on my Facebook page and he's desperate for a set. And I was like, look, they owe me 700 quid. If you want them, you can have them. Because he just rang me that many times. And he said, yeah, I'll have them. He said, I'm going to the Octo this weekend. I'll give you a ring on Monday and I'll get them paid and you ship them out. And then he rang me on the Monday and said, you're not going to believe this. He was at the Octo and someone had a set for sale.
Wow.
He'd been hounding me for months, man.
That's too
so cool. I've still got them in my garage.
Well, and
they're rare.
I would think that now, do those, the flip seat pieces weld into the buses or are they bolted in?
No, bolted.
So they're bolted. That's something that would happen at a camper's facility, like at a camper place where they would build campers. I'm thinking
they were put in they were Westphalia.
Right. So they would take a panel and then cut the bulkhead out, then bolt in the flip seat pieces then.
Yeah, it was probably 11 windows, wasn't it? They used to turn them into.
Right. No, that's
so Westphalia would have got those hands from Germany, from the factory straight to them, and they would have cut that out, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So, or maybe they have them cut out at the factory. I don't know.
Yeah. So what do you see? What do you see the future being for Rusty Lee's Rock and Roll Beds? What do you? I mean, clearly you don't see things slowing down anytime soon.
People forget what it was like before COVID, don't they?
Right.
Before COVID, we always have a quiet time, and then it would be mega busy throughout the summer, and we just got used to 3 years of just like constantly bang, 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 hitting it out. And then this past couple of years, like especially this year, it was a very slow start, but now we're flat out again. I don't know, mate. I don't want to get any bigger. The unit we're in, like you said, we had it purpose built for us, and that was when there was 3 of us. There's now 9 of us in that unit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 44 this year. I don't want to keep going on. I'm going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Certain companies have rung me up and said, "Oh, can you supply us 20 of these a month, 20 of that a month?" And I'm like, I turn them down. I say, no, because I don't want to get any bigger. I'm all about quality rather than quantity. So I'd rather just maintain what we've got, just earn a good living, and just see it through until the bubble bursts, I guess. But I don't know if it will, because we're just working on new things. You know?
And are you always made to order, or are you always behind where you've got orders to fill?
At the moment, we're on about a 6 to 8 week lead. Sometimes in the summer, we get to 12 to 14 week lead time.
Wow.
Which is crazy, really, because people want to buy it and have it straight away. You know, it's good and it's bad. Some people don't want to wait. But if they can't wait, then they'll have to just go elsewhere, because you can't win them all, can you? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
we send a lot out to America, Bill.
Yeah, I can imagine. I had just happened to be, while you were talking, I was on eBay and I just started searching rock and roll beds, and I see you even have plenty of competition in that world. So that's
it's made in the same place as COVID, though.
What's that?
It comes from the same place as COVID.
It may have, yeah. And that's the thing, you know. I mean, I think one of the attitudes that a lot of VW people have, some people are just cheap no matter what they do. Some people want to buy something that's a genuine part. It's like, why do we buy a Gene-Berg shifter? Because you know it's a top quality shifter. Yeah, it's the design.
You can't replicate that.
Yeah, so I think there's always going to be something that's the VW enthusiasts are looking for, something brand and name specific that they know that name and that brand equates quality.
Listen, man, there's beds you've seen yourself on eBay, and people that have been looking for beds have looked, and you can see what's available over in America, and it's adjustable stuff. It's made where we said it's not very good. I've had people ring me up, say, I've bought this bed off so and so. It's a Chinese one. It's junk. It rattles, and then yours are more expensive, but I want one, and they'll pay the shipping. You know, what I should do is see it through and get a shipment sent out there, because people want our beds out there, but not everyone can afford to pay £300 shipping because it's got to go to America. But if you sent a crate of 20 over there, it might only cost, I don't know, $2,000 or something.
Right.
And you divide that by 20, it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And the end product doesn't have to be expensive, does it? When I started building these beds, I didn't want people to get ripped off, and you know, I was selling them at £150 or whatever, and I was still making a good bit of money on it.
Yeah.
And these other people that are selling for $50 and things like that, like I said to you earlier, offline, I've had companies stateside contact me. Oh, we want 100 of your beds. We want to stock your beds, but we want them to be 30% what you sell them to trade. I can't make any money on those.
Right.
So I'm not doing that. They make more out of it than I do. You know what I mean?
Well, what they do is that's the business owner that thinks that you're tricked by revenue. Like, I'll tell you what, why don't you make 30 for me at no profit and I'll buy them from you, but I'll buy 30. Like, well, 30 times 0 is still 0. So I don't want to make one for you. And they're not going to sell it at any discount. If they do anything, they're just going to undercut you, you know, sometimes. So it's definitely something that's surprised me to see how big of a market it is, you know, and to be able to keep a workshop and to keep a workshop making really one product, to keep a workshop that busy with a staff that long, and to be able just to keep going. I mean, did you ever think when you were in a fab shop welding that one day you'd be 10 years into making rock and roll beds? No, mate.
I come home every night and pull up on my drive. Every night. If you ever come over here, you come and visit me. Yeah.
Yeah.
You come and you can stay with us. Every night when I pull up on my drive, I look at my house and think, I am so lucky. I cannot believe that this has happened to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've got a beautiful house. I've got some absolutely killer cars in my stable, you know, and people say, what? You got that from making beds? Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up, what do you have in your stable now? Because you know, I've been talking to our boy Andy, because you know we have a mutual friend, Andy, and you've known him a little longer than I have. Now, he told me one of the things that you're real big into Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I don't know what the story is behind that, but apparently he told me they all showed up at a car show one day with Colonel Sanders' image on their shirt, but your face was where Colonel Sanders was. What's this fascination you have with Kentucky Fried Chicken?
Do you know what? They had a load of stickers done as well. If you send me your address, I'll post you some.
Sure.
It just seemed like every time I went to KFC, someone saw me and would take a picture, and it would become a bit of an ongoing joke. And they had my face. They had my face photoshopped onto Colonel Sanders' head on a sticker and on T-shirts, and they all turned up for the show wearing it. But you know, I'm not going to embarrass Spike on you because he can't take the banter. All right?
Yeah.
He was best man at my wedding, Spike. He's a good guy. But he stitched me up with that one. I don't know what to say.
Well, and also he said, here's the crazy thing. He says, no matter how many beds you build and how much you continue to build this rock and roll bed empire, he says you still wear this one jacket that just makes him crazy. You just wear the same jacket all the time. So, and then he said you were at one point you were at a show and you were cleaning the wheels on your bus and you were mistaken for a homeless person. Is this true? Now, of course, this is what Spike's telling me. So I don't know, he's one of your mates. So I'm assuming this is fairly credible. So,
hey, listen, he was one of my mates. He just said that. Right. Number one, that homeless jacket thing, that homeless person is not true. Yeah. Yeah. And number two, yeah. Number two, the jacket, yeah. The jacket, I've had the same jacket, yeah, but I've had about 5 different ones of that jacket.
Yeah.
I just when it goes out, I buy another one because I like
it. Yeah. So I tell you this, Spike speaks highly of you, and he's a good dude. He's a guy of integrity. You know what I mean? And I knew that and I'm glad we were able to sit down and kind of get this podcast put together. So for sure, if anybody, if anybody out there is looking for quality built stuff by a hardcore enthusiast, Rusty Lee's Rock and Roll Beds, go check them out. It's Rusty Lee Pickering on Instagram, right? That's what you are for the beds. That's the site for that. And you can also go to your website, the website.
For the beds, it's VW Rusty Lee.
Yeah, VWRustyLee.com. Now,
and on Instagram it's VW Rusty Lee.
Yeah, and Andy says you're kind of like a hermit anymore now that you're out there living in the woods. Are you? Am I going to see you at EBI? I'm coming out to EBI in a few months. Are you going to be out there?
You said I'm a hermit.
Yeah. Well, he says you moved to the woods. You moved to the woods now. You're in the middle of nowhere.
I don't know. I was planning on EBI, but I've got tickets to go and see a band that I've wanted to see for a long time.
Well, let me judge if you should go there. What band is it you're going to go see?
The Eagles.
Oh, the Eagles? Well, you better hurry up. Time's running out. Those guys, they're not going to be around much longer, so you probably ought to go see the Eagles. They're dropping like flies. The Eagles are dropping like flies right now. So,
oh God!
Hey, there's been a couple. Well, I think they've only lost one. Don Henley, right? Is he the one that they lost?
No.
Which one?
Glenn Frey.
Glenn Frey. He's the one with throat cancer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, it's
Don Henley plays the drum.
Yeah. Good old American music. That's some good stuff there. Well, hopefully, Liz, I'm gonna be there visiting, picking up my Type 34 Razor from Spike around June 17th. So, and I'm there and coming back. So we're going on that Cowlook cruise out there to Bad Camberg and then over to EBI and then back home. So if I get a chance,
Did you know that Spike's had to have a defibrillator fitted at his work?
He does what?
He's got a defibrillator at his work.
Why is he
starting hearts again?
Is he?
For when he gives you your invoice.
Oh yeah.
For when he gives you your invoice.
No, I saw it there when I walked in. I wondered what that was for, but yeah, now I know. Now I know that I've got the car over there. So, but it's all right. I took out a loan. I just got an email the other day from a Nigerian prince, and I've got I'm coming into a bunch of money soon. So that's why I went ahead and commissioned the restoration. So it's going to be the Nigerian prince restoration. So, well, no, look, Rusty, I'm glad we got to sit down and chat, man. I think
the show is awesome. I love your show. It's awesome. Thanks.
Well, I'm glad that you've become a little bit of a fan of the podcast, that you get to listen to some of the stories of the guys that are in the industry, and you know that what we do is we just nail down everybody's history to get it there. And I'm sure we left a lot on the table, and I'm sure we'll get back to some more of it at some point, but definitely appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
Hopefully Hopefully I can meet you face to face at some point.
No, we will for sure. I'll be there. I'll be coming back and forth, and maybe just come out to Vegas for one crazy weekend. That's October 3rd through the 5th. Listen, Andy's bringing a bus out, so you better be. That's how good of a show it is. Yeah, so you might as well just load something up. There's room in the container. So
you'll have to come and have a look at what we've got here as well at my stable.
Yeah. No. Well, what do you got in the collection? Because Andy says you're kind of getting into motorbikes and stuff too.
Yeah, I've got a few bikes, but I've got 61 single cab, original paint. I've got my 69 Westie.
Nice.
I've got 2004 M3.
Oh yeah, M3s are nice.
BMW. 1968 912. 1990 964.
Yeah, the 964s, those are hard to come by. That's a 3-year only car. Was that 89?
Singer are cutting them all up.
Yeah. What color is it? It's a single.
Black.
Oh wow. Yeah. No, that's
with lead interior. It's on Instagram.
Yeah, I like it. I like those. The 964s are getting harder to find because everybody's chopping them up and making those RWBs out of them, or they're making the Singer likes to use that platform.
Yeah.
No, that's rad.
I love a car. Beautiful car. And I just make beds.
That's it, man. Well, keep making those beds, man, because it seems it's worked out good for you. And for those of you guys that are listening that are sitting in your garage welding on something and you're busy or you know what to do, listen, if Rusty can do it, you can do it, can't you? You know what I mean? So
as long as I don't make beds.
That's it. As long as you guys aren't making beds. But Matt, listen, it's a testament of knowing you're good at something and following your dream. So
yeah. Thanks ever so much, Phil.
Hey man, I appreciate you for coming on the podcast, and we'll talk to you again.
Take it steady. Thanks.
You got it. If you like that podcast, and I know you did, make sure you share it with your friends. All your VW friends, copy and paste and share this podcast to your Facebook group, or wherever you're listening, or wherever you're communicating with the rest of your VW friends. Make sure you share Let's Talk Dubs podcast, because I'm sure your friends would enjoy hearing some content. And if they've never heard of a podcast before, then you could just be the first one that knew what a podcast was, and tell your friends stop being a loser and listen to Let's Talk Dubs. So we appreciate you guys out there. If you want to support the podcast, go to letstalkdubs.com, click on the store tab, and pick up some merch to support your boy. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget, if you see me at Kelly Park, say, hey, what's up? I'll bring some stickers with me and whatnot. And I don't know if I'm going to set up and sell merch, but who knows, man? We'll see. I'm for sure coming out. So enjoy meeting you guys out there and hearing what your favorite podcasts are. So if you see me, tell me what your favorite podcast was. I definitely have quite a few favorites, and the more we do, the more favorites I have. So I love this hobby, and I'm grateful to be able to bring it to you guys. So support your favorite podcast, and also go register for One Crazy Weekend, October 3rd through the 5th at the Orleans Hotel and Casino. You don't want to miss it. Last year, it was a monster. This year, it's going to be even bigger with more stuff to do and more ways to win money. And I promise you, it will be one crazy weekend. So appreciate you guys. And until next week, later.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen.